Well, hello and welcome back to Soul Search Sunday with Johnny Tiger on December 4th, 2022. 2022? Yeah. Uh, it's kind of hard to believe that pretty soon it will be 2023. Earlier this week, um, I went with a couple of friends to the local courthouse to help them with some legal matter. Um, and we managed to get things all sorted out. And afterward, we parted companies. I came back home. They went on their way. And I thought that was going to be the end of the story until today. Today, I talked to my good friend Kay, who was one of the two. The other one was his wife. And he told me a little experience uh, that I thought it's actually kind of worthwhile sharing. Because this drive home the point that I've been trying to make to people for many, many years. You see, a lot of time, I've been asked many times before, Johnny, are you racist? And yeah, I know if you live in the United States, this is like a big insult, right? Like right away, no, 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 I'm not racist. It's like being branded in racist is almost as bad as being branded incest. It's like, the ultimate evil thing to be racist. However, most people don't realize that being racist is not just about black and white. It's not just being about white and brown, right? Racist can encompass a lot of things. So when people ask me, Johnny, are you racist? And I say, well, if I want to be 100% honest, yes, but not in the way that you think. So don't jump to conclusion right away and start hating me. I mean, you can still hate me, but at least wait until you understand what I'm talking about. Because I'm not racist toward black people. I'm not racist toward brown people or white people, whatever. I'm racist because I have higher than normal expectation toward my own people, and I have been disappointed a lot of time by my own people. So I feel a certain way toward my own countrymen. So if there's someone I'm racist towards, I'm racist toward my own people. I'm racist toward Chinese people. Now, a lot of you who been paying attention to me on the podcast or on my Wisdom Wednesday, you may think that, well, Johnny, you love China, you love Chinese culture, you love Taiwan. Yes, I do. I love my culture. I love the 5,000 years of history that my people came from. I love the land that my people walked upon. But that doesn't mean I have to love the politician. That doesn't mean I have to love the government. That does not mean that I have to love my people unconditionally. In fact, there are many, many times when I will tell you that I'm the first person to point out problematic things done by my own people, such as I am the first one to point out lousy Chinese drivers on the street. Why? Because me being totally blind, I already run a lot of risk when I step onto the street, when I am crossing a street to go to work, to come home from work. But when you have lousy Chinese drivers that don't pay attention to the rules, that put my life at risk. And when you put my life at risk, I don't care if you are my own countrymen. I'm going to talk crap about it. I'm also the first person to complain about lousy Chinese workmanship or cheap Chinese made crap. Yeah, because a lot of time when I am working, especially in the limitation of martial art equipment, weapons, gears, and tools, I end up with Chinese made stuff because I can't afford very expensive stuff. So I usually end up with cheaply made Chinese stuff. And a lot of time, they break at the worst possible time And a lot of time when they break, it can mean harm to my person or to someone beside me at the time. So yes, when you post a risk or threat to me or people around me, and even though yes, you may be this item might have been made by my own countrymen, I'm still going to be the first one who uh, raise hell about it. So yes, I have expectation towards my own countrymen, and when those expectations do not get met, I get very angry. I get more angry than if white people, brown people, black people do not meet my expectation because I am not from their culture. I don't know everything about their culture, so I don't feel I have a 100% good grasp on what I should expect when I'm dealing with those cultures. But when I come from my own culture, I feel that I have the right to say, "Hey guys, cut this out. You guys really can do better. You guys really shouldn't be doing this." I'm not going to blindly love, obey, and worship uh, customs and cultures and bad habits just because they're from my own people. So that's my little bit of a rant to explain to you why I say yes. If we really want to get down to it, I am racist, but I am racist when it comes to my own people. This may sound like a bit of a pointless rant, but this has a lot to do with the story Kay told me. Right. But let me backtrack and go back to the beginning of the day. Uh, Kay and his wife, they neither of them speak a lot of English. So when we set out that morning, there were three of us, Kay, his wife, and me. And we were going to the courthouse to deal with a situation that none of us knew exactly what we were doing. We didn't even know where we were going. We knew roughly where the courthouse was, and it was really, really far away. It took like an hour to get there by public transit, and then afterward, an hour to get home. So imagine this. This was a little bit like Lord of the Ring, like the Fellowship of the Hobbit. Okay, here we have three of us setting out bright and early in the morning, cold December morning. Uh, there were frost and ice on the road, and the two of us, two out of the three, barely spoke a word of English and didn't know where they were going or what they were doing. And then the last member of the party, me, uh, couldn't see, so I didn't know where I was going, and I barely knew what I was doing. I was here because I was the only person who could communicate with people at the courthouse. Yeah, think about that. Like, yeah, two people who didn't speak English and didn't know where they were going, with one person who couldn't see and didn't know what was going on. Not a very good combination, right? Like it sounds like disaster waiting to happen. But the day went surprisingly smoothly, uh, because as we progressed, we just kept finding people to ask directions and ask for advice, and everyone we met that day, it's almost like we were charmed. It's almost like we had an angel tagging along with us, and everyone we met uh, were majority of them were white and very, very helpful, very, very professional. We had no problem whatsoever. Uh, and like I said, afterward, I went home. They went on their way. Mm. Now, I stressed the part that almost everybody we met that morning was white because it does have bearing to the rest of the story. So today, when I got on the phone with Kay, he said, "Hey, dude, I have a story I need to tell you. It happened after we parted company, after the courthouse, and I want to talk to you about it." I said, "Oh, okay, what happened?" Now, just for the sake of easier to tell the story, so I don't have to say he say, she say, and all that stuff, I'm going to hop into Kay's point of view. I'm going to tell the story from his point of view from this point on. So Kay started by saying, well, after you went home, me and my wife, we were so happy that things went so smoothly. We decided to go and do some shopping, do some grocery shopping, and then she wanted to go get some clothes. So we went to a Chinese supermarket. Yeah, you know, the one across the street from you, the Chinese supermarket. And we were in there and we saw this staff in the store uh, came around the corner with a pallet full of apple. You know, like she had a trolley with her, and on that trolley was a huge uh, 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 crate full of apple. And my wife said to me, she said, "Hey, look at those are apples. Those apples look really good. So let's get us some apple." So we went over there. But the staff member informed us that no, you guys have to wait for me to put the apple in the apple section, in the grocery section. You have to wait for me to unload this. I cannot let you guys take the apple while they are still on the trolley. It's danger too dangerous. What if things fall over? It's a lot of weight we are dealing with. So sorry, you guys have to just please step aside. Let me get these apples situated, and you guys can go ahead and pick the apple you want. So no problem. Me and my wife, we said, oh, okay, that makes sense, you know. So we stood aside and let the lady proceed to the grocery section, and we followed behind her. And then, out of nowhere, it's like they just came out of nowhere. Like 20 people surrounded her trolley. 20 people just came out of nowhere. These are old Chinese people, old man, old lady, every one of them really old, and they just came out like they just walked up to the cart and with their head down, they weren't talking, and they started choosing the apple they wanted. And this poor lady who worked for the store, she kept saying, "Hey, no, 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 you can't do that. You can't do that. I have to get these to the grocery section." And the scary, creepy thing was, these old people, none of them even registered. None of them even looked at her. None of them even pay attention to her. They weren't talking to each other. They didn't talk to her. They kept their head down. They just picked the apple they wanted. And as she kept trying to move the cart forward, and they just move along with the cart. It's almost like she got surrounded by a bunch of zombies or something. And she kept telling them, "You guys need to get out of the way. If the trolley run over your foot, that's liability." But these old people didn't even respond. It's almost like they couldn't hear her. And it's the most creepy moment to watch that 20 elderly Chinese people in total silence, just reaching in, picking the apple while the cart was moving. And after that, I exchanged a look with my wife, and I said, wow. And my wife said, yeah, well, let's just go uh, pay for the stuff we have. I don't feel like any apple anymore. So we went to the lineup, and it was a really busy day at the store. And was when we were standing at the lineup, suddenly this lady who wasn't even there at first came out from the aisle to our side and cut in right in front of us and started talking to the lady that was in line in front of us. They clearly knew each other. And when I raised the complaint, I complained. I said, "Hey, hey, hey! We were here first. How come you just cut in front of us?" The lady that were in front of us said, "This is my friend. I'm paying for her. What's your problem?" Well, after that, and not much I can say. So me and my wife decided to go to another register and pay. So By this time of the story, I was thinking, wow, wow, Kay, you and your wife, you definitely seen some first-hand Chinese rudeness in that store. First, the zombie-like old Chinese people uh, taking apples that they were not supposed to be taken, and then the people that cut in front of you in line. That's some really bad experience, but you know, you're from China and I'm from Taiwan. We both know that this kind of things happen. So what's so noteworthy about this? Well, it turned out that wasn't the end of the story. Kay then continued. He said, so afterward, after these two experiences with rude Chinese people, me and my wife we decided, well, let's go get some clothes because my wife been wanting some winter clothes. So we went to one of the clothing store nearby, and my wife was down on her knee looking at the bottom shelf, and I was down on my knee looking along with her. When this Chinese lady just came up and tried to reach and take some clothes from the top shelf, and the way she did this was she pressed forward, so her jacket totally fall over my wife's head, and basically her groin was pressed up against the back of my wife's head as she reached out to take whatever she needed. Didn't even say excuse me, didn't say anything. Okay, so the two of us, we just like, whoa, what the F? But we didn't say anything. We continued to look on the bottom shelf for what we were looking for. And then 2 minutes later, the same lady came back. I guess she didn't like what she got, so she wanted to put it back to the top shelf. And she repeated that gesture, leaned forward, her jacket fall over my wife's head, her groin pressed up against the back of my wife's head, and she reached up to put the thing back. And that's when I lost my shit. So I reached over and shoved her out of the to the side so she wouldn't be in that position with my wife. And she told the store security that I attacked her. And I told them, well, if you think I attacked her, call the police. And we were there fighting, arguing in the store for almost half an hour before this woman went away. And I told her, well, you invaded my wife's private space. Couldn't you even see that your jacket fell over her head? You were pressing your lower body right on her head. She was kneeling there. She's not invisible. You didn't even say excuse me. And this woman, this Chinese woman, said to me, that's not important. It doesn't matter. I wanted to slap the shit out of her at that point. Kay then continued. He said, Johnny, I know what you're thinking. I know you are from this culture. I'm from this culture. So we all know this is the kind of stuff our people do. But what really drove it home for me is this morning or that morning when you and I went to the courthouse with my wife. We didn't know what we were doing. We were totally lost. And yet, every white person we ran into were polite and professional and helpful. And then here I was, witnessing my own people being so rude and uncaring and crass. I hate to say this, but this makes me feel that sometimes when people discriminate against our people, they do not do it for no reason at all because our people do not even show respect where respect is due. So we come to the end of Kay's story, and honestly, guys, this is really uh, something that I've always feel. I hate it. I hate it when uh, Chinese people, Asian people get picked on uh, in a foreign country. I hate it when we have to be discriminated against. But when you really think about it, Kay is right. If our own people can't even show common decency, basic respect to each other, then what hope do we have for other people to respect us?